But this one is all about painting the watercolour eggs. So in order to do that, you need to try and get your drawings as best you can, but you don't want too much pencil, because if I put watercolour on this, it will still make a nice egg, but there's a lot of graphite there. So when we're doing the ones that are for us painting, you do the same idea, exactly what we did before. And if you're not sure how to do this, please take a look at the video I did before about drawing the egg, and you're feeling your way round. By the time you've done 1 or 2 eggs, you start to get a little bit more confident, if you like, about how an egg actually is. And I recently did 6 eggs at my art group, and I didn't even have an egg with me, and I certainly didn't look at a photograph of an egg. And you know what? They came out really well. So just get a feel for something, draw it. Before you know it, you'll know how to draw it every time. I am briefly looking at the egg occasionally. If you do need to look at an egg, you want to look at it top down, get yourself a bottle top and angle the egg in there. Now for you, it's the wrong angle because you're looking down. I'm looking at it from here. So for me, that's like I'm looking at it top down. So a bottle top will help you position your egg whichever way you want and stop it rolling off, disappearing under the table. So I've been erasing some of that, and it still does not look right. So if you turn your pictures upside down, sometimes you can see better what's wrong. And can you see my egg is leaning like that? This one is nice and straight. So there's my top to my egg. And then this side needs to go down there. Feel it around that way. It's a really good trick. Turn things upside down. If you ever draw or paint people, this is an excellent way to stop seeing what you think you see and start seeing what you actually see. So I've got my eggs as good as I'm going to get them, and that's the trick. Do not try to get them perfect because you will give up. There's the eggs I started with, but these are going to bear no resemblance to what we're going to finish with. This is where we can have some fun, guys. I'm going to use some dot cards. I've had these for years. These are Daniel Smith. If you go to art suppliers, quite often they will have these for sale. Daniel Smith watercolours are available all over the world. Well, I think they are. But they can be extremely expensive. If you buy a dot card, or if you're lucky, you buy a tube of paint and you get given a dot card to go with it, which happens, you get all these fabulous colours just waiting to be tried out. And then if you like any of them, you can then go and buy the tube of paint, which will still set you back quite a bit of money. However, if you don't have any dot cards, do not panic. What I'd like you to do is get your palette or your tubes of paint or your pans, have a look through and decide, this is what I've been using recently. I could use any of these, but if there's something in here that you don't use very often, or you may never have used, this is the perfect opportunity to try that colour out. I'm going to use my brush just to make a puddle. So that's some sort of phthalo or phthalo blue. So it's a greeny blue. Can you see that? So we're going to start with that one. You do not want these to be particularly heavy on colour. It's going to be a nice translucent layer. I'm not worried about adding this to colours on my palette because it just adds to the interest. I could pull some of that old green in and make it even greenier blue like that. So let's try the first one. And this one we're going to do without wetting the egg first. So you pop on your first wash, which is just laying that paint down. You can be neat if you like inside those eggs. I've just got a little bit of a hair there, can you see it? Let's see if it will come. There it goes. Got him. So it's drying quite quickly because I didn't water dampen the egg first. Just pulling that paint around as quickly as I can. It's quite tricky. You've been careful. I'm just using a nice small, it's almost like a mop brush really, but it's so small. It has a beautiful point on it. See, that's dried there already. So I'm going to do what I always tell people not to do and go back over it, because I can. Just make sure I've got all the bits covered I want, and this is where you see if your shape is right or not. You'll soon spot if it's not, because it just will look wrong immediately. Well, that's a nice colour for an egg, isn't it? So this time, let's get some water on first. So it's going to be more wet in wet. You can do whatever colours you like. Please pick up whichever colours you fancy. These are your eggs. You've spent all that time drawing them. Now it's fun. It's time to have some fun. There we go. Like so. This one's almost dry. So depending on where you live in the world and how warm your studio is, your kitchen table, your lap on your tray on your lap, as to how much you need to allow time for this. So I'm picking up a turquoise now, which in the palette is looking really, really opaque. Look at that, completely different to this one. You can see it moving. This one is nothing, you can't see through it. So there we go. Very different, but it's a similar type of bluey green. Whoops! Now what's happened there is I've picked up lavender that was in the same well. So we're going to have a multicoloured egg, because this is a happy accident, hopefully. So I'm going to just drop that into that water. Try and keep it within the confines of my drawing. So it's looking very similar to the other one at the moment, isn't it? So when a watercolour is more opaque, when it dries, you can't see that layer, you cannot see through that layer quite so well as if it's a translucent layer. It's worth looking on your paint tubes or in your pan on the information sheet whether or not a colour is translucent or opaque. If it's opaque and you want to layer with it, you're going to sort of lose that immediately, because one layer of opaque paint is going to pretty much knock out any translucency. So this has got quite a lot of the lavender going into it, and it's really interesting because I did a happy mistake there when I added the paint in, but colour wise these are very, very similar, aren't they? We'll see what happens when it dries. So this is a minute later. It's still really damp, and out of my Derwent watercolour collection I have an ink tent stick, and this is a green. I've got my craft knife, and what I'm going to do is just scrape off some of tiny pieces of green into that wet wash and see what happens. Pick up a blue stick, do exactly the same. You can just about see that some of the pigment is running out of the shavings into the surrounding damp wash. It's not hugely obvious, but it is there. So if you've got any Inktense blocks. Use them, have some fun with them. If you haven't, but you've got some watercolour pencils, you can go back to this one, which is, let's feel, not quite dry, but dry enough. I can then use this just to draw on, or I could do exactly what I did over here while it was still wet and shaved the end off my watercolour pencil with a sharp knife of some sort. So I'm just popping in some orange on this because orange is a really nice complement to a blue-green. If you look on your colour wheels, it's opposite, so this is always going to work. But if it's too wet when I put this on, they will merge together, and complementary colours across the colour wheel will give you a grey. So just be aware it might do either or. Just got a dot of something on there that's dark, but that's fine. It's giving it an extra speckle. So although that's dry, it still has quite a nice effect. This one is softer, but equally nice effect. If you're going to do a dot card, what you need to do is put some water on it before you start. I use a pipette just because it's accurate and easy. Making sure I clean my brush out, picking out clean water. Then I'm going to have a nice wash over this egg. Might have just put a little bit too much water on my brush. It's a tiny brush, but it really holds a lot of water. So I'm just dampening down this egg, thinking, is my egg the right shape? Is this going to work? We'll find out. So that's nice and damp. Then I'm going to try my very best to work up this colour. This can be a bit tricky because you haven't got much to work with. You can buy collections of dots that are much bigger and you get a lot more paint then. But let's see if I've got enough here. This is duochrome hibiscus. Let's see what happens. Right, so how damp is that still? Pretty damp. Let's pop that on. So straight away you can see that it's quite weak, so I've got to work a little bit harder because these are dried puddles of paint. I've got to try, do my best to work that in so it starts to come off the page a little bit more. So I'm just going to keep adding that colour, literally rubbing my brush into that dot. Not too bad, is it? This is going to be quite a pale pink when we finished, but it's also got quite a nice sheen to it by the looks of it. There was a pink on here before called Opera Pink, which has lost most of its colour, but I can try and pick some of that up because they're both pinks. So we're not going to grey anything down, and just pop that in. Whoa, look at that, lovely. Let's just dot that in amongst it. It's given it a bit more strength, hasn't it? These are your eggs. You can put what you like on them, when you like. So get my pencil. Instead of dotting into it, I'm just going to scrape. This is called fuchsia. Derwent Inktense again. Go as mad with this as you like. Okay, that's probably enough of that one. What else have we got? Let's pop in a peacock blue. Sometimes they don't do a lot and sometimes they do loads. That's probably enough, isn't it? So I've got one more egg to do. This one I have not touched yet. It's called Rose of Ultramarine. So let's see what this does. Pop on my water. Now this was the egg that caused me the most difficulty when I was trying to draw it. So this will be a test to see if it looks okay or not. So rose of ultramarine, you'd like to think would be sort of pinky, wouldn't you? So because I've got 2 turquoise eggs, I'm going to go with a pinky egg again. So let's see how well this comes off. So a bigger pot, a bigger amount of paint on there because I've never used this one. So a little bit more to pick up, which is quite nice. I'm expecting this to be strong. Yes, that's quite nice, isn't it? Oh, that's lovely. You can tell it's got ultramarine in it because it's already granulating as it goes onto the paper. Very nice colour. Sometimes you try something that you've never touched before in your palette and think, wow, why didn't I use this before? And all you're doing is painting imaginary eggs. So you can't get this wrong. There we go. That's really pretty. I do like that one. Bright red. Will that do anything? It's not going to ruin the violet colour, it's just going to enhance it. Seems to be doing something. But the granulation's doing most of the work there. If you get yourself a little rigger, which hopefully you've got a small brush like this, which has a very fine point, and they're called riggers or liners. Riggers for painting rigging on ships and liners for doing lettering, etc. So if I pick up some colour off of here with my rigger, so let me see, let's go for Moon Glow. I know Moon Glow because I've actually bought a whole tube of it because I loved it so much. So I'm getting a nice thick amount of that into my brush. I'm not using as much water, just have to work a bit hard to do this. So it's a nice creamy movable paint on there. This is still damp, that's key. And now use your rigger, just whoops. So I'm going to get big speckles. Ooh, look at those. And try and be random with where you dot them. It's not easy. Pick up a little bit more and then speckle your egg with the tip of your brush. If you don't have a rigger, try doing it with the tip of the brush that you normally paint with, the round brush. You can sometimes do it if you're very careful. Have some fun trying. So there's Moon Glow. It's not too bad, is it? I like that one. Got a very interesting egg going on there. The final experiment, I'm going to see if popping paint on top of the pencil drawing is going to ruin it or not. So I've this time gone back to my palette. This has a little tiny fraction of Quin Gold left in it, and I've popped in some burnt sienna just to see what happens. I'm not going to dampen the page this time because it's already got a drawing on it. I could spray a fixative over this, but don't think the watercolour would stick very well. So I'm just going to ever so lightly do this, hopefully in one wash before it dries. And I'm trying to be very careful I don't lift the pencil underneath. It shouldn't lift too much, but we did put a lot on there. So I'm just seeing if this is going to create a nice egg. Because we've got coloured eggs on here, it would be quite nice to finish it with a colour. There we go. Not too bad. It's worked quite well actually. So what colour am I going to dot on top of that? Let me have a little look. I think I'm going to use the red Inktense again, because the red will enhance this golden colour, not deaden it. Very imaginary eggs, aren't they? There we go. So even though that's got loads of pencil underneath it, it's still made a really, really nice egg. And now I need to get those dry. Now when you've sprinkled things on top of things, you could have added salt to this, you could do all sorts of things. You've got to let them dry, and preferably let them dry naturally. Can you see down here, this is blooming where I went back in, because I shouldn't have gone back in, should I? But it's made this lovely bloom, and I actually really like these. So to me, that's all part and parcel of the fun of the eggs. That one's coming on nicely. It's something I could do now to enhance them a little bit more. I'm going to use a slightly different brush. This one hasn't got such a belly. It's a synthetic brush. It doesn't hold as much water. All I've done is squeezed it out in fresh water and squeezed it with my fingers, so it's got some dampness on it. That's all I'm doing. Then I'm going to go with my imaginary highlight. Where is it? That one's really dried on really well. Go over it again. Just starting to come now. Probably stop there so I don't ruin it. That one came off a lot easier, so that's really interesting. That's the opaque colour, and that is coming off quite well. Oh, that's an interesting effect there. I'm working my way around them as I put them on. Now, reds are always harder to lift. You'll always find this. They generally stain the paper much more than any other colour. We've got some off of there. Let's try the pink. Yep, quite good. It's obviously still slightly wet. One last one, which is very wet. Smudge the red slightly, but that doesn't matter. Now they're already beginning to look a little bit more like they've got a shape to them. So now I will let them dry. So we just need to suggest some shadows, and the best way, in my opinion, to create a shadow is to use the opposite of the colour you're using. So if we layer some of the opposite colour to a bluey green, we'd be putting an orange of some sort on, and when you mix them together via layering or glazing, the orange and the blue will mix together and make a grey. So let's see if that works. This is my old mixes on here from another painting. So orange you can mix with your cadmium red and your cadmium yellow. Nice soft glaze there. I'm just going to pop that on where I think I want to be a slight shadow. And again, you're just following the form of the egg round as best you think. And I'm layering that orange on top, which is greyed the blue down. Could have a hard edge, but generally I like a soft edge, so just gently soften that away. So it's giving it a slight shadow. So this egg is already orange, so this one has got a pencil shadow underneath. I don't really need to do a glaze, but I will. I'm going to put this lovely bluey green over it, just in that area, just to really enhance that shadow area. The bluey green is on top of the orange. They're complementary colours. Hey presto, you get a shadow, a grey shadow. And just try and keep it soft-ish. I might get some blooms, I generally do. This one again is blue, so let's go back to the orange. Complementary colour, Just a really soft, this one's got some lovely, lovely patterns in it. It's really surprised me because they were so opaque, these colours. I didn't think they would do much at all. You can just see there, I'm just lifting some of the dots that I've put on because I'm washing a damp brush over them. So if you don't want that to happen, pop your speckles on last. There we go. That one. This one is pink. So what's the opposite of pink? Well, pink is red. So any sort of yellowy green would do the job. So the pinky egg would have, the opposite would be green. You can see how that's dulled that pink right down. Like so. Again, you can keep it as a hard shadow, or you can squeeze your brush out and just gently soften it as best you can. It's not easy to do that. And then the purple one, well, that would be a really sort of deeper green if you were going to go down that. So let's pick up this green that we had before, mix some of that into the yellow that we had, cadmium yellow. That's a proper rich green now, and pop that one over this pinky layer. Immediately dulled that down. Round it comes. You don't see the join quite so much on this one because the colours dark to start with. You can just see I'm putting the green on there. You might get some cauliflowers, some runbacks, all those sorts of things, but give it a try. Try and put a shadow side on your eggs and using the complementary colour, and then let them dry.